With the launch of the Pacific chapter for Battlefield 5, DICE made sure that we all had new weapons to play with that fitted into the setting. The Assault class got the iconic M1 Garand, the Medic got the Type 100, the Support class got the Browning machine gun, and the Recon class got the Arisaka bolt-action rifle. And then on top of that, DICE also included 3 weapon unlocks within the chapter reward system: the Jungle Carbine for the Medic, and the Type 94 sidearm and the Model 21 revolver as all-kit sidearms. These 7 brand new weapons to play with are available for the entire chapter, but they've been released right at the start, so we have something brand new to sink our teeth into. But what I'm sure you're wondering is, when is DICE going to start adding more weapons that we can use? Well, it looks like we've got an answer, thanks to Temporyal, our resident Battlefield data miner. According to Temporyal's latest post, from the files he's discovered 5 other weapons and gadgets that will be coming to the game through the Tides of War, all of which we already know about, but he's discovered their launch dates, so we know when DICE is going to be releasing them through that weekly update system. So first of all, in week 6 of Chapter 5, so that's from December the 5th to December the 12th, the lunge mine gadget is going to be introduced. Now, we got to see this in the Pacific trailer a couple of times, so we roughly know how this thing is going to work, but right now we're still not sure which of the 4 classes that it's going to end up assigned to. Now, as my own guess, I say we're going to see this in the Support class. It's going to complement the AT mines and the AT grenade pistol. The Assault class, which is another category it could go into, they recently got the Fliegerfaust to add to the launcher list alongside the Panzerfaust and the Piat, so I can't see DICE adding the lunge mine to the Assault class at this point. Then in week 7, that's from December 12th to December 19th, just before Christmas, we get our first primary weapon. We're getting the BAR M1918A2. This is a weapon that DICE added to Battlefield 1 last year, as I think of a nod towards the setting of Battlefield 5, and it's a weapon I've actually had the chance to use at the DICE offices already when I got to play the Wake Island map. In Battlefield 5, this is going to become a light machine gun available to the Support class, and it features a 20-round detachable box magazine. Then we jump forward to week 10, the start of 2020, January 2nd to January 9th. The Nambu Type 2A Japanese submachine gun will be this week's unlock item. Now, in real life, this weapon was rejected several times by the Japanese government for deployment to the army and navy troops, but some samples ended up being used in small conflicts before World War II began. The Nambu firm that also offered the weapon to the international market didn't get much interest in the weapon up until 1944. The Japanese government provided funding to the Nambu firm, who'd initially designed the weapon. They'd been absorbed by another company at that point, and the idea was to get something working very quickly that could serve alongside the Type 100 submachine gun. The highest observed serial number of any Type 2A submachine gun was 9. So really, even after its introduction in 1944, not many ended up in the hands of Japanese soldiers. The Japanese also referred to the Type 2A not as a submachine gun, but as a rapid-fire pistol, or a machine pistol, due to its size. Then on week 11, January 9th to January 16th, the Japanese Type 97 machine gun is coming to the game. From the images that we already have of the Type 97, this one here is some official Battlefield 5 artwork. This kind of looks like it's going to be the counterpart to the American BAR, being set up as a light machine gun rather than a medium machine gun. And then lastly, week 12, from January 12th to January 23rd, we have another iconic American weapon from the war, the M3 grease gun. This was produced as a lighter, cheaper alternative to the already in-service Thompson submachine gun, and the US Army somewhat misled other countries into believing that the grease gun was actually a more accurate and powerful weapon compared to the Thompson, and this may very well have been to cover up the fact that it pretty much was a worse weapon overall, but still another iconic American weapon coming to Battlefield 5. Now, whilst I was reading through that list of weapons, most of you are going to have noticed that none of them are launching until the second half of the Pacific chapter. The earliest one is launching on week 6, and that's bang smack in the middle of the chapter, and that's a good 5 weeks away at this point. And some people are a little bit disappointed at this apparent decision, and I can understand that disappointment because there are some iconic weapons here that made their name in the Pacific Theater during the war, and people want to be using those right now in Battlefield 5. But it seems that DICE is going for their drip feed solution. And I will say at this point, I know a lot of people don't like this drip feed of content where week after week we get one new item rather than everything being dumped at once, but trust me, if that system wasn't working to get people to come back and play the game every week, then DICE wouldn't be doing it. It must be working for DICE to carry on with this drip feed system. Personally, though, I think DICE chose to front-load the Pacific chapter with those 7 weapons that we spoke about earlier, the Jungle Carbine, the M1 Garand, that group of weapons. That was in hope that players would be satisfied until a little bit later in the chapter before they want more weapons to use. Now, I will say that the majority of players won't have ranked up all of these 7 new weapons yet. Most people don't play every single day, and they're probably still having a good time using these new weapons. You'll also notice that the weapons start arriving in December, which is the month that the new Wake Island map is due to arrive for Battlefield 5, so it could well be that DICE is deciding to tie together Wake Island and these new maps starting to feed into the game at the same time, so players have got that new map to play on, and they've got new content to play on the map with. And of course, that's all leading up to Christmas as well, so I can understand their thinking there. This does obviously mean, however, that we have a 5-week gap before new weapons and gadgets are going to start coming to the game. And right now, it does appear that DICE is going to be filling those Tides of War weeks with cosmetic items for our soldiers and our vehicles and weapons. But I'll go back to my previous point though. For us more dedicated players who are looking for new content already, I understand that, but I think we also need to understand that DICE is catering to a huge audience of slightly less dedicated players who still want to play Battlefield 5 and feel like they're keeping up with everyone else. 7 new weapons at the beginning of a chapter. Most players haven't even begun to complete their journeys ranking those up yet and mastering them. These next few weeks until the beginning of December, I think DICE is planning to let those weapons sort of play themselves through a little bit, and then on week 6, they start with the new weapons alongside the Wake Island map. That's how I think things are going to play out, and obviously DICE is catering to a massive, slightly less dedicated audience. We, the vocal minority, I guess you could call us, of course we want new content all the time, but we are the minority in the group that DICE is catering to, so I guess we kind of have to go with what DICE is going to do here. So, those are the new weapons coming and their potential release dates, but the data mine doesn't stop there. We've got a few more cool bits of information that we can learn about. First of all, with the recent 5.0 update to the game, the main menu receives some updated code that links to tank body customization. Finally, we might be seeing this in the game. Right now, it's only basic mentions and some setup changes to differentiate it from other items in the menu, but the addition was made. And that's good news for players who are looking forward to being able to customize the visual look of their tanks beyond just the paint job. The M2 flamethrower that was added to the Battlefield 5 Pacific maps as one of the 2 pickup weapons, there is now potential for that item to make its way onto other maps in the game. Update 5.0 left hints in the code that the weapon could end up in the Conquest, Breakthrough and Rush game modes on the Operation Underground map. Could you imagine that flamethrower in a tight, confined space? I mean, you can already do that on the caves on Iwo Jima, so it'd be insanely powerful on Underground. Right now, neither of the 2 Pacific maps include proper combat boats, but that might be changing in the future. The PT-1 MTB and the Elco PT boat are mentioned in the files under new UI references, so could DICE be saving these PT boats for the release of Wake Island, which will have a lot more open water combat? Who knows at this point, but there are references to them in the files. And lastly, references to a new game mode rotation have been found. It's kind of like a new construct, a little bit like Grand Operations, where multiple game modes can operate within one game mode, but right now it's set up as a 32-player, competitive, best-of-5 rotation of multiple game modes. TDM Domination, Capture the Flag, and Rush are all mentioned as game modes that can be played, and the Final Stand game mode is also mentioned as the decider game mode if both teams are drawing 2-2 after 4 rounds of the 5 are played. This could be quite interesting if we ever end up seeing it in Battlefield 5. So then, alongside all the excitement of this new Pacific content, it is good to know that, at least unofficially, because this is all data mined information, that DICE is working on plenty more for us Battlefield 5 players in the near future. Let me know what you think of all this down below in the comments. Is holding back these new weapons until later in the chapter okay in your eyes, or would you still prefer it to come all at once? Let me know down below. And whilst you're down there, make sure you check out my new Born to Shill merch. I mentioned this the other day, but your support on this so far has been amazing. Lots of you checking out the site and quite a few of you buying shirts and tops as well, so a massive thank you for your support. bit.ly/Westie store, or click the link at the top of the description. Drop this video a like if you enjoyed it, or a dislike if you didn't, and until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.